If you've been feeling extra tired, sluggish, overworked, or fatigued, stressed out lately, it might be that your body is actually trying to tell you something. And no, it's not that you are working too hard or too much. We just maybe want to work a little bit differently. Hello, welcome back to Yoga with Paige. On today's video, we are discussing the difference between masculine and feminine energy, what it means, what those are, what those opposing energies look like, what they feel like, and how we can tap into one when we are feeling a little bit unbalanced and dial back on the other. So in every body, no matter your gender, no matter your sexual orientation, everybody has masculine and feminine energies. The masculine energy, called Shiva, controls the right side, and we think of it as a yang energy. Whereas the opposing energy, the feminine, is Shakti, and it is the yin, the softer side, ruled more by the moon. And sometimes these energies can get quite unbalanced depending on what is going on in our lives, how in tune we are with ourself. Self-awareness has a lot to do with the energies and how they all play a role in your body and the harmony that you may feel in body and mind. And one of the goals that we practice in our yoga practices is to kind of bridge the gap between these two channels, one operating the right side, one operating the left side. We can kind of bridge the gap, unite those channels together so that they're not merely opposing each other, but kind of working in conjunction with each other. So we tap more into one in certain instances, and we tap more into the other in other instances, kind of bringing harmony back in body and mind. And this doesn't take a whole lot of effort, just a lot of conscious intention, maybe a little bit of conscious movement and thought. So let's dive into exactly what these energies are and how we know which one we're feeling in the body. So our Shiva energy, our masculine governing the right side, is kind of our center of structure, of planning, organizing, things like that. So when this masculine energy gets blocked or unbalanced, we feel a sense of tightness, of rigidity, whether that be in the physical body or in the mind. So mental blocks can happen a lot. We feel this manifest as physical tightness, so muscle tension, headaches, digestive trouble, but we can also feel these as mental blocks where we are holding on to grudges, we're holding on to things. So if you want to picture clenched fists, or if we want to tap into our masculine side right now and clench your fists, think of hard, rigid structures, thinking of boxes, things with very apparent lines, very apparent outlines, structured ideas, things like that. So holding grudges, definitely, when we are feeling an unbalance of rigidity there. And a lot of anger can come when we are feeling more masculine energy and we need to kind of dial it back and give ourselves some feminine energy to help balance it out. Going along with that, our feminine energy governing the left side is a more soft, kind of subtle energy, bubbling, simmering underneath the surface, and it is kind of the opposite of the masculine energy. So it is more intuitive. It's softer, gentler movements, our center of self-love, fluid movements, not focusing so much on structure, but on organic movements, just things that feel good. We think of heart openers for feminine energy and hip openers as well. We kind of unlock the sacral chakra. It goes in line with the sacral chakra, our center for creativity, inspiration, and sexuality. So on the flip side, if we're feeling too much feminine energy, if we're tapping into too much of that, we will feel this in a lot of emotional ways. So we will feel very irritable, a lack of control, maybe some feelings of loneliness, just generally feeling ungrounded. So if you're feeling quite ungrounded in yourself, in your life, in no matter area, whether it be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, you may be tapping too much into the masculine energy, and we might need to kind of let loose and find some ease, tap into the feminine energy, and know that it's okay to let some of these rigid confinements that we've built for ourselves, it's okay to let some of them go a little bit, to soften, to relax. We all need the balance of these things sometimes. Structure is good. We could not have our freedom, our belongings, our home, our stability, our stable income without structure. But there is a time and a place for all of these things, and we can't be structured all the time, or we lose our sense of kind of inner knowing, our intuition, our inner knowing, our sense of knowing what's right and wrong without the rules or guidelines telling us so, because we have this feminine energy boiling down in there. So we've talked a little bit about how we know when we're tapping into the feminine versus the masculine in our daily life, but what about our yoga practice? So as we practice our yoga, remembering that there are many different types of yoga, and some practices are more structured, they are more outlined. Some of the first practices where yoga began was actually structured by a man for boys, for 15-year-old boys' bodies who hadn't even fully formed yet properly. So some of these Iyengar, Hatha, they are more alignment structurally based. And we know if we are kind of tapping into the masculine energy too much, if our yoga practice is mirroring this rigidity, if we're focusing too much on the aesthetic of the pose, I know it might sound like it's more feminine, but it's not. If we're getting too rigid in our movements and not allowing for any freedom of expression or any addition, say we have a structured yoga plan and we have all these movements curated, this sequence, and we feel that we cannot, whether it's a mental block or a physical one, if we feel that we cannot variate from this plan, this yoga plan, and we have to do each pose for a certain amount of time in the correct order, this is a sign that we are adhering too much to the structure, and we need to let loose a little bit and tap more into the feminine side. I like to think of this a lot when I am focusing too much on my progress. I feel that that personally is a way that I know that my mindset is focusing more on the masculine, is when I'm focusing on my progressions of certain poses and the checkpoints that I can make. When I'm actively releasing those and not even thinking about the progress that I'm still making every day, I know that I am kind of in more of my feminine era. When I'm feeling more fluid and I want to just move by my intuition, sometimes I don't even have a class plan and we just flow together just as it comes out. That is more of a feminine side that we see in our yoga practice, where our movements are kind of fluid. We think of water, we think of the ever-changing tides. We just go with the flow, with that energy for the moment, what our body naturally yearns to do and to go, listening to that deep-rooted sense of intuition. So if we're feeling too structured in our practice, we can lean into the feminine side to bring us back to this harmony, allow us to take the reins off of this rigidness and bring us back to the here and the now. I think that that is one of the great things about intuitive movement. When you don't have everything planned out, you are really in the present. It really brings you into the present if you are moving without a plan. Because if you say you practice the same sequences over and over and over, with that repetition, at some point, your brain might go on autopilot. You might just be able to do the full sequence without even realizing it, without consciously thinking of that next step. But when we tap into the feminine and we let our plans go and we just see what our body wants to do, we get that sense of fluidity, that sense of kind of a moving meditation when you are connected to your body through the physical feeling of it. You feel it moving in space. That's the only way that your body knows what it wants to do next, is that you are in the moment and you're feeling where you are now. You're experiencing this moment with an open heart and you are letting the softness in. A lot of times that is why I try to cue to soften where you can, or to try to find some ease, especially in the poses that are not naturally full of ease. Say some warriors or some high lunges that take a lot of activation in the body. So while you are consciously activating those muscles, see in what other areas you can soften, whether it be mental, emotional, or just another body part that we can release a little bit. Other than yoga, there are some ways that you can kind of balance your masculine and feminine sides by tapping a little bit more into the feminine, as usually when we're talking about, the breeze feels great, when we're talking about being unbalanced, usually, especially in this society, this day and age, we're talking about too much of the masculine, too much of the overworking, too much goal orientation, not enough true presence and inner knowing. So to kind of start letting those things in, letting the love in, opening yourself up, we have just a few simple little things that you can add in. One of my favorites is to laugh, whether that be finding a funny video, talking to a friend, really just being in the present moment. You won't find things funny if your brain is elsewhere, unless you're giving someone a fake little laugh, then that doesn't even count. So as we laugh, we're really using a lot of air. We're deep breathing, so we're getting a lot of oxygen to the brain, letting the lungs, the belly inflate, that feeling of openness, of oneness. And it's just a great way to bring about some kind of comic relief to your life, especially if you are stressed out and overworked. Some comic relief could really be just what you need. Another way is to dive into your own sensuality. Sometimes if we're not connected to ourselves enough, especially if we're feeling ungrounded, we shy away from our own selves. I have a question for you, and it is, when is the last time that you lovingly touched yourself? And I don't have to mean in a sexual way. I mean, it can be a little head massage. When is the last time that you gave yourself true self-care in that way? This can help nourish your feminine side by fulfilling those desires of touch and intimacy, knowing that you don't have to receive feelings of intimacy and a loving touch. They don't have to be through somebody else's hands. It is almost more loving when they're from your own hands. You are giving your own body more love, and in acting in that way, you are effectively letting more love in. You are changing that energy around, transforming into a softer part of yourself. You are allowing that to open. You're not shutting it away. Sometimes it can be kind of scary to be vulnerable and to be open. Let the light in, let the light in. You know, we want to just form these rigid containers and keep ourselves in these boxes to not be hurt in the future, maybe. But in reality, when we do that, we are only hurting ourselves by creating and confining ourselves like that. We are not giving ourselves the love we deserve, as well as letting others give it to us and receive it by us. Getting out in nature and witnessing this balance itself happen naturally on the earth is a great way to kind of connect with it in your own head. So a tree, for instance, is big, tall, strong, but it is deeply rooted underneath the earth. There is structure there, there is stability, there is security, and it can extend out for even miles. I don't know, miles is probably not accurate, but being a little dramatic. But the trunk of the tree goes up and you still see it dancing, its leaves swaying in the wind. You still see it being fluid and allowing itself to open, move with the changing times, the changing breeze. It sways and rocks in the wind, tapping into its feminine energy, but yet still being rooted and grounded with the masculine energy. It is a very nice balance there. So I challenge you to go out and try to find an example of this opposing force in nature, and see how that makes you feel connected back to yourself. See if you can find its mirror within your own body. And another way that you can kind of tap into this is changing up your routine a little bit, traveling somewhere new. Don't really bring a plan with you. Just allow your intuition to kind of guide you, don't look up reviews of all of the restaurants and pick based on the reviews or the photos of the food. Walk along the street and wait until you find a restaurant or a spot that calls to you, and then eat there. The same thing with what you want to do, where you want to go. Make sure it's a new place so we can open our eyes up to a new, fresh perspective, but just go without a plan. I recommend don't go with a group or like a tour guide or anything like that. Just kind of give yourself permission to explore on your own and open up that side of creativity. Find some inspiration. Just seeing things with new eyes and in new lights can be all you need to change it up and let a little bit more go. I just freaked out a lizard right there. So now that you have a little bit of a better understanding between the different feminine and masculine energies, when they're used, what you feel when they're unbalanced, if you are feeling a surge of masculine energy and you need to tap into the feminine a little bit more, I recommend practicing some yin or restorative yoga practices, tapping into the sacral chakra, just like this class right here. This one is a great one. This is really honestly for the feminine energy, and that's why I started making this video as well, to help explain and spread this knowledge of the opposing energies and to take care of yourself in this way. So I hope this kind of cleared up a few things for you if you've ever heard of this term, masculine, feminine energy. So until next time, have a beautiful rest of your day, my lovelies.